What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to your stimulus check update, stimulus package, and infrastructure update and daily news report for Tuesday, August 31st. Yes, we are finally at the end of the month and technically at the end of the summer. Here's what we know. Today we're actually going to discuss many things. First, we're going to discuss how the White House actually says they support stimulus checks, but what are they going to do about it? We're going to talk about how some lawmakers want to see a stimulus check, but others say that a stimulus check is the last thing that they want to see at this time. I'll explain why that is. We're also going to dive into what is going on with the eviction protections, what Nancy Pelosi is saying she is planning on doing. We're also going to dive into what the IRS is saying regarding your delayed unemployment refund checks, and we will also address how a group of lawmakers say that we should all be penalized for not getting the vaccine. So that's what I'm going to address in today's video. If you have any questions whatsoever, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. But let's get into the update for today. Let's start off with what the White House is saying. The White House says that they are open to additional stimulus checks, and they do support them. They have supported them ever since President Biden came into office. However, they say that they will have to wait on Congress. They will have to wait for Congress to decide if they want to include them into the next infrastructure bill. According to reports, legislation has to get the majority support, obviously, in order to pass, but the White House doesn't want to push either for or against any piece of legislation. They want Congress to decide what will be in this bill, and then President Biden will sign it. Whatever passes through Congress, President Biden will sign. That is the report as of this morning. So, at this time, though, the problem is there are still a handful of lawmakers that, for multiple reasons, are not considering another stimulus check. And most of these are senators. So just to give you an idea, Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are two that have publicly stated they don't want to extend any additional stimulus. This would include an additional stimulus check. However, there are more reports that there's others as well, not just these two. So, there's multiple reasons though. But according to a handful of lawmakers over the past few days, here's something they're saying. They say that a stimulus check is considered a bad thing. Not because it's going to help you, but many don't like talking about them because of what they represent. Here's what I mean. And you're probably thinking, well, why would they not want to provide a stimulus check? We really need a stimulus check. We really need to get back on our feet, or maybe even a monthly check, right? This is what lawmakers have been discussing for a little while, but here's what Congress is actually thinking at this time. Congress isn't planning on passing a fourth stimulus check or a recurring stimulus check unless we really start to struggle. They do not want to just provide a fourth stimulus check or recurring stimulus check just to get the American people back on their feet. That's not the whole goal of a stimulus check. And they don't want to help pay for things like, back rent, because there's $46.5 billion out there for that. They don't want to help pay off debt that you've accrued over the past year. They say that's not something that they should be required to do. It's not on them. But what Congress believes is that a fourth stimulus check would only be needed. Only be needed. Okay? Let that sink in. Congress believes that a fourth stimulus check would only be needed if we see additional lockdowns. That's what they're saying. That we will only need an additional stimulus check if we see future lockdowns, which some are saying that we will. If we see COVID cases surge once again, we could see an additional stimulus check. Guess what? They're surging. They have been for a little while. If we see employees being let go due to lack of work, then yes, we could see an additional stimulus check because we're not going to get unemployment benefits extended. Well, some people have already been let go. Just to give you an idea, McDonald's is actually thinking about closing all their in-room dining. They will only allow for either drive-up or drive-through. That is it. You cannot go into the room anymore. That could be a big change because you won't need as many people. You will not need as many employees. You won't need 2 people cleaning the restaurant because nobody is eating inside. You will not need people up at the front counter because nobody will be ordering inside. It will be all drive-through or drive-up. So again, this is where we're at. And it's because of this that Congress is saying that a 4th stimulus check is the last thing that they want to see. Because this means COVID cases are surging, employees are being let go, and we are really starting to struggle like we did last year. But let me just get your take on this, and you can comment down in the comment section below. Do you think that this is right, that Congress should be holding off on stimulus checks until we are really struggling? Or do you think they should be providing for the American people that have suffered for the past year? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But here's another major item that's being discussed right now. That is the eviction protections. The eviction moratorium was supposed to be extended until October 3rd. However, the Supreme Court ruled against this 6-3, saying that no, this was unlawful and that they were actually gonna pull this off or pull this away. So right now, there's no eviction protections. Yes, some states still do have it, and I believe after September, no state has it. So just keep in mind that the eviction protections are pretty much gone. But yesterday, Nancy Pelosi, she decided to back House Financial Services Committee Chairwoman Maxine Waters, who is working on a plan. Okay, she's working on a plan that would require grantees to accept the self-attestation of a tenant and to provide assistance directly to tenants in certain circumstances. This is going to be big. Because what was happening is a tenant would go and try to get rental assistance. The problem is if the landlord was like, no, I don't want no rental assistance because I'm not going to take a 80% of what you owe me, and then you get the other 20%, and you can do whatever you want with that. No, I'm not going to do that. You give me 100% what you owe me, or else we don't have a deal. Well, tenants were simply just going to the rental assistance agencies, the programs, trying to get some assistance, and yet the landlords weren't accepting it. But the money has to go to the landlord. But here's the deal now. Now, Maxine Waters, she's trying to change all this to include self-attestation, which is exactly what Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen wanted to do just the other day or last week. But she wants to do this where the money goes directly to the tenant. So maybe you get, let's say you owe 8 months. You pay $1,000 per month. You owe 8 months, $8,000, right? Or let's just say 10 months, $10,000. Well, normally, let's say you would only get 80% or 75%. So instead of $10,000, you get $7,500. But instead of it going to the landlord, it would go to the tenant. The tenant would pay the landlord the $7,500, but then the tenant would still owe the other $2,500. That would be much easier to work with. As a landlord, I'd be much happier getting $7,500 as opposed to the zero that I was getting before. I'd much rather get $7,500 and still allow the tenant to stay in the property and work off that $2,500 debt that they have. That would be much easier for me. That's a win-win situation. But again, that's not what some people are doing. So according to the reports, Maxine Waters, she plans to present this proposal for markup on September 13th. So in a little under 2 weeks. But that is when the Senate does come back to Washington, and the House will come back 1 week after that. The key here, though, and this has been happening for months, Bernie Sanders has been putting the framework together for the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. He wasn't planning on extending the eviction moratorium, providing additional funding for renters at this time. He also wasn't looking into unemployment benefits again, but now, With more and more lawmakers pushing for this, pushing for additional assistance and helping out the American people, he might have to make concessions. According to multiple reports, Bernie Sanders will most likely have to make concessions in the upcoming negotiations in order to get these provisions included. This means that other legislation might have to be put on hold if moderates can't agree that we need additional assistance, or if it's going to increase the deficit too much to actually get all 50 senators on board. And right now, I don't think all 50 Senate Democrats are on board. I think we got about 45 maybe, and the other 5 are probably questionable. But again, we're going to have to wait and see what really happens here. But what I can tell you is that according to a report from Goldman Sachs, they say that roughly 750,000 renter households will lose their homes just this year. Just this year in 2021. They say that they owe anywhere between $12 and $17 billion to landlords. It's a pretty good amount, but there's still over $40 billion. About $40 billion left from the $46.5 billion that Congress allocated to rental assistance. And yet states can't get that out. Goldman Sachs also says that 2.5 to 3.5 million households are actually behind on rent. But not all of them will be evicted. But most likely anywhere between 1 to 2 million households will lose their homes over the coming years. That's what we're hearing at this time. We also know that the IRS actually gave us a statement as to what is going on with them. The IRS is still seeing multiple refund delays. They say they are still short-staffed, obviously, with this pandemic, and people still haven't even come back to the office. They are experiencing many delays due to mail processing, both in-house and with the United States Postal Service. So this isn't great news either. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for your check to be delivered because it has to process through their center as well. And then it has to go to the United States Postal Service, which in some cases is a little behind because they are short-staffed as well. One thing that many of these businesses are saying is, if you need a job, come and apply because they are hiring. The IRS also says they are unfortunately not going to meet their goal of having all unemployment checks, refund checks, out by the end of summer. Because, well, technically today would be the end of summer. So, they say that is not good news, but they are still working on it. But let's get into the vaccine news for today. A group of unnamed lawmakers, and I think this is interesting, but give me your thoughts on this as well down in the comment section below. But a group of lawmakers, unnamed lawmakers, and health officials, and I thought that was interesting that the report had to put in a group of unnamed lawmakers because they obviously don't want to give their name for whatever reason, but they say that people that are not vaccinated should be penalized. They say that we've done this before with Obamacare, so it needs to be done again. And if you're not sure exactly what I mean, when Obamacare first came out, anybody that didn't have health insurance, and I believe it still applies to this day, but if you do not have health insurance for 1 year or for a month, you get penalized a certain amount of money. And if it happens 2 years in a row, it kind of goes up and up and up, and 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. And they say that should be the exact same thing. If people are not being vaccinated, they should be penalized. And that's just one way we could do it. But I don't know, is that really the right thing to do? I do understand that, yes, hitting the American people where it hurts in their wallets is one of the things that does work. But when people do not have money, when people are going to be looking at their income taxes and their returns to try to actually get back on their feet, and then we go and hit them with, oh, you've been penalized this much money because, well, you didn't have the vaccine. I don't know if that's really the right thing to do during a pandemic. But at this time, okay, a time like this, we still don't know which vaccine is even the best one to take. Some say Pfizer is the best, but usually just because they have been first to market in most aspects. Others say Moderna is better, and some like the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Nobody can agree that which one is the best. But according to a study of Belgian healthcare workers, this was done just recently, Moderna's vaccine creates more antibodies than Pfizer. They actually create about 2 times as many. So some say Moderna is the better vaccine than Pfizer. But again, that fight will continue. What I can tell you is that it doesn't matter what vaccine you take. It doesn't matter who you ask. Just take a vaccine. That is at least according to the White House. They say just take a vaccine, get one, because you will be better off. You will actually be protected against hospitalization. However, there was a report that came out this morning. I will just touch on this. I'm not going to elaborate much on it because I still want to dive deep into this. But there's reports out this morning that says that the vaccinations are not cutting down hospitalizations as much as they used to. But that could be because the vaccines are actually starting to wear off and there needs to be a booster. But again, we don't know 100% yet. But as I do, I promise I will fill you in on all the news and updates. Again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. If you could and you enjoyed today's video, go ahead, hit that like button. It really does help out the channel. Also, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.